Let's try this again. The phone wanted me to turn it around, and every time I tried it, it gave me a red message or red error box. I don't know. So, if anyone's there, welcome. Hopefully, we'll see some people turn up. A couple of things I want to talk about tonight. Let's see. Hopefully, my moderator will show up, Mr. Faust. Hopefully, you're there. Looks like one person's there. It's probably just me, but if there's anyone there to chime in, and we can start the conversation. I don't want to start rambling and then miss anybody. Two people. Who's here? Somebody chime in so I can see you. Let's see who's here. Happy Monday to everyone. It's Monday. Not a big thing, but the weather's nice. I mean, we hit 50 today here, so that was nice. The snow is melting. All the slushy stuff from yesterday is melting. Hopefully, we'll have a nice warm week. Oh, one person dropped out. I just see one person. Anybody there? I don't see anybody. Anybody want to chat? Oh, back to there we go. Who's this? Zombie Dave. Good afternoon. How are you? Where are you from, Dave? We're Southwest Connecticut here. 50 degrees. It feels like spring finally. Southern Arizona. Oh, okay. You got some nice weather out there. All right. Today, a couple things I wanted to talk about. Nothing crazy, but some people with the snow coming to an end, they were asking me about the impeller trick that we do on snowblowers out here. Not much use to you out in Arizona, Dave, but to those people that have snow, there's a trick you do. Especially yesterday, we had slushy snow, and slushy snow is no good to snow throwers, especially those that have. Doug, good afternoon. How are you? Slushy snow is no good to people with regular snow blowers. The single stage snow blowers are pretty good because they act like squeegees. So 65 Ford, I believe it was, told us to put rubber on the impellers, on the fans. So that's what I do. I actually take used rubber from single stroke machines, because if you try and buy this insulated rubber, it's not cheap. I mean, one 18-inch strip is like 20 bucks. It's ridiculous. So I find the junk blowers at the dump, and I pick the insulated rubber off. It's got cloth in between the rubber, so it's nice and stiff. And then I cut a chunk off. You can see I cut a chunk off, and I use sheet metal screws. Actually, it's funny. I actually use screws, two different types. So one is like a Tex screw. It has a hex head on it, so you can use a nut driver. But I've actually used the Phillips screws, and people say, oh, Phillips, it's going to strip. If you use a good bit, like a Milwaukee brand or one of those bits that you buy in the kits that are not cheap, they're like $2, $3 a piece, they hold up. I'm surprised. They'll start a self-tapping screw and they will not strip out the Phillips. I'm amazed, but they actually do work. But anyway, I use the insulated rubber onto the fans. If you have a 4-blade fan, you only have to do 2, and then it's balanced. If you have a 3-blade fan, like some of the Toros, you have to do all 3, or else it's out of balance. I cut the rubber so it just sticks up into the fan housing. Once I engage it, the rubber wears right off and it fits. It's like a perfect squeegee. You can go through water with these things on there, and it works perfect. I've done them to dozens of blowers, and people love them. So I think I charge between $20 and $40 to do it. That means taking off the chute and everything. Some of them are pain in the butt when you got to take off the chutes and get in there and drill it. And sometimes the drill doesn't reach. You got to use an extension. So, depending on what type of blower it is and how many paddles I have to do, I like using this stuff, and my customers like it. Matty O, I'm hoping he chimes in. He gave me this fixture to take off the oil pump gear on this 136 motor. The oil pump gear you have right here. And I was excited because even though the way this is designed, it's actually designed for larger oil pump gears on chainsaws that have a larger diameter gear. Mine, I thought this side would fit, which is a 3/8 MPT. Well, I was going to take it off and do it to you on the camera tonight, but it doesn't fit. And I checked the pitch. The 3/8 has an 18 pitch to a 3/8 pipe tap, and the pitch on this gear happens to be 1.75 millimeter. An 18 pitch inch is like 14 millimeter, so it's not going to work. And I don't want to strip out the gear and ruin that, because it's a good friend of mine's chainsaw, and I'm just trying to figure out. I may turn something on the lathe that's the correct diameter and pitch, but it's a weird 16.5 millimeter OD gear with a 1.75 pitch. That's not standard anywhere. So Make Tracks, welcome, welcome. So I'll have to make something to either go on here or to just make a puller of my own. I could probably make something that just screws on that I can grab my 2-jaw puller and pull it off, but these gears, they're not that cheap, and I don't want to have to replace one or wreck it, so I'll have to make a tool. Another few of my viewers were asking about what I use to seal off the chainsaws when I do the pressure tests, and I just use urethane rubber. It's fairly, I think it's a 50 durometer, so it's fairly supple. I get sheets of it at a time. McMaster car, you can get a sheet for $5, and I just cut out wedges. This one, you can see the circle in it. I cut out and I stick that between the carburetor and the intake and tighten down the carburetor screws. I have to use another one on the other side to go into the muffler area. Actually, the muffler one is a little bit bigger to slip between the muffler and the exhaust port, and you can see the witness mark from the muffler hole. And once you stick those in, I made an adapter to go into the spark plug hole to set up my Mighty Vac, and it seems to work fine. This saw, strangely enough, the leak was on the flywheel side, and on the PTO side, no leakage. I tested a few times, pressure vac, no leakage at all. But what I did find tonight was I did a quick check, and around the base, where the base, there's no base gasket on these, it's just silicone. There was a slight leak around there too, so that's the reason I was getting more of a leak than just the seal on the flywheel side. So I'm going to use 3-Bond 1184, which is the adhesive of choice on most chainsaw guys. Even though Craig Timmons used I believe it was a Permatex product, a black, like a super silicone or something, like an ultra black or something like that. If he chimes in, he could tell us what he used. But he did that on a Poulon, which is a clamshell saw, just like this, and it seemed to work okay for him. So no gaskets in these, it's just the urethane or silicone or whatever they're using for the sealant. So we'll get that going in a couple of days. All right, what else is on the agenda? I talked to people last time about the John Deere infamous CV transmission, the plastic transmission that's put out by General Transmissions. If you notice, if you ever go to buy a John Deere tractor, if you buy their D as in David series, the transmissions are plastic, okay, metal innards, but the outside's all plastic. And this variator pulley, I don't know if you're familiar with the variators, the way they work, the pulleys go up and down, and by going up and down, it increases or decreases the effective diameter of the pulley, which gives you faster or slower speeds. It's called a variator. It's used in Bridgeport Millers, it's used in the old John Deeres. They had a variator with a lever where you pulled the lever and it pushed in the pulley back and forth to get high and low, like a high and low range on an older John Deere. But anyway, what they use on these is a washer. This is all worn away. It should be about twice that diameter, and it was aluminum, and it is aluminum, but it's a cup washer, almost like a washer you use on a bushing for like a sway bar or something. And anyway, over time, the M4 bolt in the middle of the transmission output shaft walks its way out, and as it walks its way out, the aluminum moves around, and the spring that's on there is a steel spring, and the top of the spring is very sharp, and it just skives into the aluminum, it just cuts right away at this bolt and wears it away, so it just falls apart. Take care, Make Tracks. Thanks for stopping. I appreciate it. Wears it away, and the thing just falls apart. So, ironically, I called up the Deere dealer, because I try and keep some of the mom and pops in business if I can, and he wanted $128 for the kit, which includes the pulley, spring, washer, and screw. I went online. General Transmission through Amazon or anywhere else offers the same kit, exact same kit, for $51. So I love my dealer, but 51 versus 128, I think I'll go with the 51. So I ordered it, Amazon. It'll be here in a couple of days, and hopefully we'll get that out of here. And another thing I noticed about a lot of these tractors, when you buy them at Home Depot, a lot of people buy tractors at Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, and that's fine, just so you know what you're buying. People that set those things up aren't tractor people. They're not really skilled mechanics. And one thing I've noticed, especially on this one that I got in, was the toe end was so messed up on this tractor. There was no tread left on these tires. I mean, they were literally down to the cords. And I asked the guy, how many hours do you have on the tractor? He had 265 hours on the tractor. And I'm saying to myself, 265 hours and the tires are bald already? So then I look at the toe end. Literally, I think the factory says tow them in an eighth of an inch, maybe a quarter. This thing was towed in like 2.5 inches. No wonder the guy wore them out. Every time he took a turn, he just wore through. So, and ironically, you look at those tires. I think they're 1566 is the tire. BS Small Engines. Good afternoon. How are you? The tires are 1566, but they're like $50 a piece for Carlisle tires. I mean, I try and get a decent brand when I put tires on something, but it's crazy. My local dealer's nice to me. He charges me $5 just to throw them on and off. I have a tire machine, a small one, but you know what? For $5, thank you. Go ahead, do it. And if you're buying the tires from him, it helps him too. So he's making a few bucks. So I try and, like I said, that's my local dealer. He does Toro and Ariens and a couple other things in Monroe, Connecticut. Real great dealer, L&R. What else do I want to talk about? Oh, fuel line. On these little saws, especially Poulons and cheaper the Husqvarna ones, they have this fuel line that is super, super small. You can't get it anywhere, and except the dealer, okay? So I went to the dealer the other day. I actually went to a John Deere dealer who actually is Husqvarna, and he actually had it in stock. So the part number is 530069247. You can see it there. And I bought a filter and I bought the line. The line wasn't bad. It was like $4 or $5. You get 2 feet. It's enough to do two saws, because the one saw I think has about 8 inches in it, so you got enough to do not quite 3, but say 2 saws. So $2-3 a piece. That's not bad. The thing is, using the factory fuel line on the Poulon, the smaller Huskies like the 40-50 series, the smaller ones, they require the small hose. Now what I've been doing is I'll buy Tygon fuel line that's probably 30 thousandths larger diameter, okay? Because I can buy Tygon 30 feet for $18. And I'll take a drill bit and I'll hold it up to it and I'll make sure I have enough squeeze in there to keep it sealed on the fuel tank. And I'll drill it, just re-drill that hole open to accept a standard line. And that's usually not a problem, but I do have some customers that they see the yellow Tygon line and they go ballistic. Oh, the factory line's clear. Why are you using yellow? That's no good, this and that. Well, Tygon gets a bad rap. I mean, it's good for fuel and everything, but some people go to Home Depot and Lowe's and they buy urethane tubing, which is not good for fuel. The minute you put urethane tubing and fuel together, boom, it turns like a rock. It's solid. You can almost snap it. And especially in the cold weather, too, when you put gas and urethane. So I tell people, look, I warranty all my work. Anytime I do something, I tell them I'll guarantee it, and usually if I do an engine or something, I give people 6 months. If I do a small repair, I'll give them a 90-day warranty. But it all depends. I mean, you give them a warranty and then they go out and cut through a log that's laden with nails and barbed wire. I'm not going to warranty the chain sharpening. I'm sorry. I mean, you bring it back and, if some of them are honest, they'll say, Kenny, I saw sparks. I don't know what it was. I know what it was. You have an old tree. It had a fence wire going through or some nails or something. And, that's what you hit. People don't realize that. Or if they're bucking and they're cutting the logs and they hit dirt. I mean, people don't realize just dirt. You might as well put a file on it. And they knock down all the high spots and everything, all the edges, and now it won't cut anymore. And I tell people, when you're cutting with your chainsaw, think of it as Quaker Oats. You should be getting Quaker Oats out the end, okay? If you have like a race saw or something with a skip chain or something like that, you'll get some like noodles coming out. It'll almost look like noodles. But for the most part, you should be getting Quaker Oats. If you're getting dust, it means you're not cutting. You're just wearing on it. And half the time, I'll be honest with you, half the time, it's not that the chain isn't sharp, it's that they've never touched the rakers before. And then when I say rakers, they don't know what I'm talking about. So I tell them depth gauges, and they still don't know what I'm talking about. So I'll show them. I really would like to buy one of those very large chainsaw teeth that you see. I think they sell them to dealers who sell chain, because you can explain to your customer what you're doing. And then you can explain depth gauges and things like that. I like to explain to my customers what they're buying, what they bought, how to really use it, especially how to use it safe, because chainsaws, dangerous. I mean, I've seen so many people get hurt. It's sad. And even snowblowers. A friend of mine sent me a link this week. A guy got his arm caught in the snowblower, and I'm saying to myself, why would you stick your hand down the chute? Nope. He stuck it in the front because it sucked up his newspaper, and he wanted his Wall Street Journal or whatever it was. So, he didn't even shut off the engine. And I'm saying, wait a minute, how is it even spinning? I can see the engine running, but how is it spinning to, usually you let go of the handles. Nope. He had some rubber bands around the handle because his arm was getting tired. Well, now his arm's getting real tired because it's in three pieces almost, all broken up. So live and learn. Please be safe with your power equipment. And I tell people all the time, they ask me to defeat the safeties on their reverse switches on their tractors and things like that. I just won't do it. I mean, God forbid someone's pet or child gets hurt. I couldn't live with myself. So I tell people I'm the wrong guy for that. I believe in safety. The OPE has done wonders with different safeties. Some of them are pain in the butt, especially the ones that are microprocessor controlled. How many times you go to work on a Troy-Bilt tractor and it's got this $150 computer board behind the ignition switch, and it won't start because all the safeties, and if you fry the board, it's going to be $200, and people are like, I paid $350 for the tractor. Well, safety is safety is safety, and some of these tractor manufacturers went overboard, I think, on some of the safeties by using printed circuit boards and everything else so that you couldn't jump out the wires. Good idea. You could take the seat switch, try and jump it, it won't work. You could take the clutch switch or PTO switch, jump it, it won't work. Great idea. And look at snapper mowers. Any of you that have snapper rear engine riders, they've got a little module in there. You can't bypass the switches, the seat switch or the clutches. Can't bypass any of them because that module, it's a module in epoxy, and it's $40. Friend of mine had one of these mowers. He hosed it down just to wash off the mud, got that module wet, gone. The motor was warm. I guess everything was warm. A little water seeped into this module, gone, shorted it out. Didn't want to spend the $40, end up selling the darn thing. I mean, crazy as that. But like I said, safety, number one. Never, ever defeat safety switches. I mean, even if it's your own piece of equipment, I know, I've done it before in the past for my own stuff, but, I've been doing it 30, 40 years, and I'll be honest with you, if I see children outside, I see pets outside, I stop mowing. I won't. How many times I've seen one of my customers call me up and say, Kenny, I hit a golf ball, and it went over and went through the neighbor's picture window. Or, Kenny, I hit a nut and bolt or something that was in the grass, and it flung and almost killed somebody. It's crazy. Hey, Matt. Dr. Matt, good afternoon. Did you just sign on, Matt? Because I was talking about this tool here. Basically what I did, I measured the gear that's on this because last time when I tried the 3/8, the bigger side, it starts on, but it doesn't go all the way on, actually the 3/8 side. Oh, am I buffering? Uh-oh, sorry about that. Maybe the kids are playing video games. I tried the 3/8 MPT side on that gear, and it starts, but it only starts about a thread or so, not much. So I went back and I calculated a 3/8 NPT has an 18 pitch on it, whereas this thing has a 1.75 metric pitch, which is the 3/8 18 is a 1.4. So it's not even the same pitch. So I don't want to risk, screwing it up by tightening this thing on and breaking some of those threads. So I'll just make an adapter or something to go on here that that'll thread on it the way it's supposed to be. It's weird. 16.5 millimeter OD with a 1.75 millimeter pitch, and that's not on any screw chart. It's not standard at all. So it's something that Husqvarna proprietary, I guess, or chainsaw manufacturers use. It's not anything standard. So I'll be sending that back to you. The only reason also, Maddie, I wanted you to chime in, I was watching some videos today. I don't know if you caught Tree Monkey's video on porting. He just started a series, Scott Coons, called Porting. It's a porting series. It was one of however many he's going to do, and he started out with the lathe where he cut the base of a cylinder on his lathe. And I was curious to see how he held the end of the cylinder on his live center on the tailstock, because there's no real marker or anything on a steel cylinder, especially they're on an angle actually too. He just took a piece of metal, an actual piece of metal, laid it on there. Either he went in with a center drill or just put a little, point on there, went in with the center, and that's how he holds it. He just puts pressure on it to hold it against his mandrel. He's about a few thousand clearance on his mandrel, does 20,000 depth of cut, and cuts his bases. I mean, simple really. I just never thought, flinging it around on a lathe with nothing solid on the center end. To me, it was kind of, a little dimple on there. He had to have something, but it's just laying on top of the fins, though. There's nothing solid about it, So if he loses his compressive distance, the thing is going to fly, well, it's on a manual, it's not going to fly off, but it's going to do some damage anyway. I thought that was interesting. So I'm looking forward to his series. I downloaded the Two-Stroke Tuner's Handbook today from 1973. Yeah, he runs it pretty good though. I mean, when he went in there with that cutter, I was getting a little nervous watching it. And actually, when he first went in, he didn't have the tool out all the way, and when he turned it on, it actually hit the flange and stopped. And then the arbor was still turning, and the block itself, the cylinder was hanging there. So that was kind of harrowing for a second, but he made it up, and he did a good job with it. I was reading the Two-Stroke Tuner's Handbook today. It brings back nightmares of when I was taking thermodynamics 30 years ago. But, a lot of it made sense in what they're talking about. I didn't realize the book was written in 1973. Now with all the tools that we have and the availability, he's talking about using the slide rule and all that. When I started college years ago, I mean, we had a slide rule, but I think we used it for about 2 months before they said you can buy an expensive, $200 calculator that does, plus, minus, divide, and all that. So it was, and we didn't have computers. When I went to college initially, there were no computers. I mean, when I first started working in the early to mid '80s, that's when PCs came out. So we were used to doing everything manually. Anyway, so I was looking at different videos, Tree Monkey and all the other guys on there, and one guy, it's an old chainsaw forum. I don't know what it's called. I'll send you the links. But they stopped doing it in like 2005 or something. It's old. But this guy did an a 346 XP, but in the top transfers, what he did, and this was what was weird to me, it made sense why he did it, but I'd never seen it before. He took the actual transfers, cut into them, and then walked them out in the direction of the intake opening so that it sort of like swirled the air from the transfers not only to come up but to like come up and over and push toward the intake to maybe help the charge exit faster. I don't know, I'd never seen that before, and I was looking through OPE to see if there were any old links to threads that talk about taking the top of the transfer, and instead of just making it wider, higher, whatever, cutting a little bit in toward the intake hole so that it tended to make the air flow toward the intake. Yeah, I think internally they do, but this guy actually went down 15 or 20 thousandths, and actually, to me, you're losing compression when you do that because you're increasing the volume inside the chamber, as you're doing it. I don't know. It just didn't seem copacetic to me. I don't know. Yeah, but let me ask you a question. I'm going to buy the OEM Husqvarna cylinder, and I'm going to do some, timing, porting, little stuff. I'm not going to go crazy with it, but something like that, is it even worth doing on an OEM cylinder? I know you said OEM usually have decent ports and things like that. I mean, should I just stick with the standard stuff? Horse Shop, how you doing? I saw your live stream the other day. I'm just curious, Matt, because I don't want to go crazy with it and overport the thing and then it runs like garbage, because I'm not that I'm going to spend a lot of money on this saw, but I'll probably have, a couple hundred into it by the time I'm done. I just, I don't want to port it the wrong way. Let's see, what else? I was talking to people about these Husqvarna fuel lines, the ones that are so tiny, you can't find them anywhere. You have to buy them at the dealer. And when you look at the price of it, it actually makes sense. You're probably spending $2-3 for the piece. So I don't know why Husky used that real flimsy small stuff for some reason. I don't know. It's crazy. What else? Trying to think, what else am I working on? Oh yeah, I was watching. Stick with the standard porting. Well, it's funny, Matt. I was looking at all the OPE posts earlier in the day, and I don't know, Randy, I guess he's the moderator. He came up with a list of numbers, standard numbers for different CC saws to use for intakes, exhaust transfers, blowdown, all that stuff. And I was just wondering if there was any rule of thumb, especially for the 346 XP. You would assume roughly a 50 cc saw or something. Now, question. The standard Husky kit for 346 XP, is that 44.3? I would assume it's 44.3 versus the 45 for the 50. I'm just curious to see, because he had a thing on there for intake, exhaust transfers, and blowdown, what you should use for the different CC of saw. And I was going to try that at first. But he also, I don't know if it was him or somebody else, was showing the CC specialties. Okay, he was I think it is a CC CC, the people that make the tools for doing the 44.3 XP NE. What do you mean new? I see NE. What was it before? Like 43 or 44? I know they used to stamp them on the cylinders. I used to see the black stamp on top of the cylinders. Um, But like I said, I'm reading about that. I'm reading about porting, open port, closed port, quad transfers, dual transfers, single transfers, things like that. But it's just funny reading in that two-stroke tuners book, 1973. They're talking about the old Cowie triples and the Yamaha F5s and all that. And I remember them growing up. Oh, 42, okay. I remember them growing up, and I remember friends of mine racing those things. Um, and the power out of those two-stroke triples was amazing. And the theory is the same. You look at the theory of how porting and intakes and exhaust. It's just I hear too many horror stories on there. I read a few of them where people overdid it and put the cylinder on, and all of a sudden the saw ran like garbage. So I know sometimes you can make up for it with fuel, or you could reposition with gaskets and things like that. But I just I don't know if I just want to make a stock 346 to have a nice saw, but I really want to port it. I want to play with it, do it right. I've got my Dremel with the what you call it, the um, shaft drive, so I can get in there. I actually have an angle head, but it's the Dremel angle head, and it's pretty big. I don't even know if it'll fit in the cylinder. It's pretty big. You've got, I believe it's a dental instrument where you buy those aftermarket angle heads on it that are like $20-$30, so that's not too bad. But I'm just thinking I'm gonna have to do something to get in there. I was even thinking about maybe putting it in my Bridgeport and go with a saw, a little saw in there, and then go in from the side just to start the cut, and then try and blend it somehow. But you probably need an angle, an angle grinder, just to do it the right way. So we'll see what happens. But I was thinking of cutting the cylinders the other day. A friend of mine had a rotary table on his Bridgeport, and now Shars and some of these other companies, you can get cheap rotary tables, $80-$90 for a little rotary table. You could do the cylinder heads on that on your Bridgeport. Set it up in the rotary table, get it nice and stiff, indicate it in, just use an end mill, spin it around, and you get a beautiful, beautiful cut. And you don't have to worry about it. As long as you tie it down, in a vise or something on top of the rotary, you're good. So I was thinking about maybe doing that too if I have to cut that, because I know, Maddie, you cut the bases, but using a rotary table on the cylinder seems a lot easier than doing what you. Yeah, one day. Hey, if I see a cheap one, I'll let you know, because a lot of times, I always see the machine tool dealers that trying to sell me stuff, and if they have old stuff laying around, sometimes you can get it for pennies on the dollar. The cheapest I've seen a small rotary table, like an 8-inch table, though, is probably about $150. So not too cheap, but you get what you pay for. If you get a Troike or a good manufacturer, rotary tables aren't cheap. What else do I have for tonight, guys? Let's see. Oh, I had talked to one person the other day about the degree wheels, and let's see. I ended up buying the kind that you get on Amazon for, I think it's $12 or something like that, like this. And I'm going to use a 1/2-inch chuck. I'm going to put it on my lathe. I'm going to turn it down, put a thread in there for a nylock jam nut, maybe a couple friction washers, and that's how I'm going to mount it. Everyone I talk to online seems to think using a 1/2-inch chuck is the way to go. So I have one. I have a bunch of them, so I figured let me use it. So you could try it out. Let you guys know how I make out. Let's see. Did you ever find out what brand your compression tester was, Matt? Because, like I said, getting the kind that have the valve on the very end, I mean, I really want one, and the one they have at Sten's right now is very expensive. It's $53, and I'm not going to spend that on a little teeny compression gauge. Like I said, I tried that gauge versus the one I have now that doesn't have the Schrader valve in the end, and it's 10 to 20 pounds difference, so it does make a difference. What else? Oh, I had a question, Matt. Maybe you know, or somebody out there. On the side of a 136, there's this little piece. It goes on the side of the case, and I don't know why it's there. I'll show you the case right here above the I think it's the oil. There's, I don't know, a part where this thing goes on, this little plastic piece. Oop, I don't know if you can see it. This piece goes on here. I don't know what it's for. It doesn't look like it hides anything. The only thing in there is one of those Tinnerman fasteners to hold down the top cover. So maybe it's just access so you could put a Tinnerman fastener in there so you could clamp down on the cover. I don't know what else it would be for. It just seems like it's a lot of work to make an injection molded piece that's just a cover. Yeah. The only thing inside the opening, if you notice, there's the opening here above the fuel cap. The only thing in there is this Tinnerman fastener, and all that's used for is to hold down the cover, the 4 screws on the cover. That's all it's used for. But to access this, when this cover is on there with the screw, the way the cover mounts, the screw goes in here and it mounts like that. I don't know, it's weird. It just, I've never seen it before. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why. If anyone knows anything about like the 30, 36, 42, like that, why this piece is on there except to hide the Tinnerman fastener, I don't know. It's confusing. I mean, I took it off and I'll put it back on, but it just seems like maybe for manufacturing, just so you can get to that fastener in there, because with it on, you can't get to that fastener. So it's just weird when I saw it. It just didn't make sense why they would have that. I did discover on the 136 that this right here, these anti-vibe mounts, this is where the chain catcher screw attaches. I'm trying to get the handle off. I'm like, why is this handle not coming off? It was the chain catcher and its screw holding on to this AV mount. So first 136 I've had apart fully like that. Once I took it apart, the handle basically fell off. But amazingly simple the way these plastic saws go together. And Maddie, I was thinking about you because on the base of this clamshell, it actually has the inserts, the actual headed inserts that go through the plastic holes so you don't crush your, when you screw in, you don't crush the plastic and crack it. And I was thinking about you were looking for bushings for the carburetor that have the heads on them like that. So I guess they use them at the bottom of these smaller clamshells to keep the plastic from getting cracked when you tighten down the aluminum clamshell to the bottom of the case. It looked like it was a washer on the bottom. I'm trying to take the washer off. I'm like, why is this washer coming off? Not a washer. It's a T-shaped bushing, a bushing with a head. So that's why it wouldn't come off. So, all right. Boy, I've been on for almost an hour now. Unless anyone has anything else, I'm going to hit it. It's time for dinner. It's about, wow, 7:30 already. Subscribe, like, help me out if you can. I'm trying to get up to 100 subscribers. I'm at about 62 right now. Hopefully people find the content enjoyable. If there's anything you want to say or talk to me about, you can email me kensmallengines@aol.com. I work on everything. I work on 4-strokes, 2-strokes, everything from lawnmowers to tractors, hydrostatic transmissions, manual transmissions, transaxle, everything. So if there's any questions anyone has about any of that stuff, it's not just about chainsaws, even though since meeting Dr. Olson here, I'm sort of hooked on chainsaws. I really work on everything, and I've been doing it for about 20 years. So if anyone has a question, they could put it in the comments. I'll definitely answer it in the comments, or put your email there and I'll email you privately, up to you. But at this point, if anyone's looking for chainsaw tools, Matty Olson's channel, Matthew Olson, look him up. Some great videos on chainsaw builds, mostly Husqvarna, but great build videos, bolt-to-bolt videos, bolt-by-bolt videos, which are phenomenal because nobody does that anymore. Matty does that. So check out Matthew Olson's channel. If you want to take apart chainsaws, buy tools from Matty. Matty has a series of tools where you can take apart all the different types of cases, areas, and throw your email up there, Matty. A little free advertising on my channel. And like I said, he's got a great set of tools that take apart the cases. Put together the cases for the Husqvarna saws, steel saws, all different types, different threads he offers, the M10, 12, 14, all different types. So if you have any questions about that, go visit Matty O's channel, Matthew Olson. And with that, I am going to bid you adieu, and hopefully Matty will see you later on this week whenever you come back on. And guys, thanks for helping out. Thanks for subscribing and liking. And like I said, any comments, questions, anything you want to see in the future, put in the comments, and I will tailor a video to you. If there's something you really want to see and I can post it, I'll do it.